And we are back one more time for
The Horror Guys.
Yay!
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're going to talk about 5 horror movies this week.
Oh, really only 4 horror movies and a almost remake.
And a science fiction-y leaning. We got several science fiction leaning ones this week.
We're all over the place this week.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, a couple. One of these probably is sketchy if it's horror or not. You think?
I think so. Yeah, it's pushing it.
I don't know that any of them are really pushing it.
Well, it was really good though. We're talking about 2019's Freaks, which is not a remake of the Todd Browning.
One of us.
Yeah, it's not a remake of that. No. And then the original 1997 Cube, and in Japan they did a 2021 remake of Cube. So we had to watch them side by side to compare. And then a strange kind of fairy tale based one, 1952's The White Reindeer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Santa Claus not included.
An international film. And another black and white that's kind of a classic, 1957's The Seventh Seal.
Is that related to the Ninth Gate?
No, I don't think so.
Different thing entirely,
Adjacent, yeah. Max von Sydow was young once. Max von Sydow, this is some of his early work, and he's a prominent character in it. And he was young.
He was.
In 1957.
As usual, the episode is brought to you by HorrorMonthly.com, where you can read all the reviews from everything we looked at last month. Stop on in over at HorrorMonthly.com, where episode 43 has recently been released. You can pick that up at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Smashwords, our site, HorrorGuysShop.com, or just about anywhere where books are sold.
Wherever fine books are sold.
Yeah. And our studio audience is walking across my keyboard right now.
Yes, we have a guest in the studio today. So if you hear some meowing and meowing, that would be Sparkler, our cat. One of our cats.
The studio audience.
Yes, the studio audience.
Well, anyway, what do we got first?
Let's start with Freaks.
Freaks!
2019.
Directed by and written by Zach Lipovsky. Stars Emil Hirsch, Bruce Dern, and Grace Park. Hour and 45 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. What's about?
Well, it's about some freaks. Yeah. It really leans heavily into science fiction with a lot of action and thriller aspects, and it whispers some horror on it.
If the X-Men were horror, this would be that movie.
This is like an alternate X-Men universe.
A more believable one, actually.
Yeah, I think more realistic. Yeah, they're not superheroes. They're being hunted as freaks, and they have to be in hiding. It starts out nicely with a bit of mystery. And you don't really know what's going on with these people, but you do figure it out. And
you get an early impression that turns out not to be what you thought.
Yeah, it gets more fascinating the more we find out what's going on. We thought it was really entertaining. Big thumbs up from both of us.
Well, it's hard to crap all over Cube, but this, I think, was my favorite of the week.
Oh, it's kind of a toss-up between this and the original Cube. I loved them both.
I've seen Cube too many times now.
Okay.
I can do the math in my head. So
It's primes.
A little girl, Chloe, peeks out the window at the ice cream truck on the street. Her father shoos her away from the window and covers it back up, saying she's not being a good hider, and the bad guys will find her if she's not careful.
And at this point, you're thinking, okay,
they're bank robbers or something. At this point, is what I was thinking.
He's some kind of crazy guy that has sequestered this little girl away.
Well, I'm leaning to that a few minutes later, but right in the middle, right here, no, it's not clear.
Yeah.
She recites all the details about her made-up identity with her dad. She knows exactly what to do if her father ever doesn't come home. I can't wait until I'm normal, she whines. They seem happy, but they're also clearly hiding. Is he some kind of lunatic? Well, maybe. Then Dad's eyes start to bleed, which for some reason doesn't seem to surprise anyone.
Yeah, they just take that in stride.
He's done it before.
Mm-hmm.
She wonders if her eyes will do that someday. And he shouts at her, "You are not normal!" And she laughs. I got shades of, why can't you be normal?
Yeah, but they're just kidding around back and forth.
Chloe knows things about the mountain, but she's not supposed to know about that. Well, Chloe dreams about a monster trying to break in the door, and then we see that she's been drawing scary pictures. Turns out she sees ghosts, and Dad says ghosts aren't real.
And he's right, but it's complicated.
He's right, but she is seeing things.
It's not ghosts she's seeing, yeah.
Well, the next morning, Chloe hears the ice cream man outside again, and someone drops a book through the mail slot. It's called Mr. Snowcone and the Princess. Somebody wants her in that ice cream truck.
Yeah, they do.
Chloe wants ice cream. She sees another little girl at the ice cream truck and wishes out loud, repeating for Harper, the neighbor's kid, to bring her some. And she does, so Chloe opens the door.
Yeah, and it's like you're wondering, okay, she made Harper do that.
Yes, she did. That's clear, yeah.
Yeah.
Harper's mother, Nancy, also stops by and introduces herself. She looks so normal, Nancy says. Dad wonders how Harper knows Chloe's real name. Chloe's never been allowed outside. She's never met these people, but they know who she is.
She sort of has met Harper, yeah.
Harper wakes up and finds Chloe in her room. This version of Harper is Chloe's sister, or at least Chloe treats her like one. She wants Harper to pretend she's Chloe's mother. Dad comes in, and Chloe's all alone in her locked room. He offers to just buy her some ice cream since he has to go out for supplies anyway.
And that doesn't go so well when he rushes in.
He rushes in, covered in blood and holding a gun. That's okay, this mostly isn't my blood, he says. I just gotta be more careful. Not only has he been shot, he's forgotten the ice cream, which is worse.
Mm-hmm.
He says they may have to stay hidden for a very long time. All right, so we're like, oh, he's a lunatic. He's got a kid, one of those conspiracy people telling the kids that everybody's out to get them.
Well, it's more complicated than that.
Yeah, everybody is out to get them.
Uh-huh.
Well, we're going to stop at that point. You're going to have to watch it and see how it goes for yourself.
Yes.
And, of course, this should not be confused with the 1932 film Freaks,
No,
which is a whole different kind
all.
of thing.
It's not a remake of that.
This has not anything to do with circus freak shows. Well, we start off with a paranoid, isolating father who appears to be crazy, and it goes quite a long time until we learn the truth. We're 40 minutes in before we find out that this is the X-Men universe.
Without the superhero factor. They're just, and that's what the freaks come from. There's a bias against them.
There's good and bad.
There's a bias against them that, they're called freaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we all know the X-Men movies are fun, but this film is probably much more like the way it would really work out if mutants were real. Yeah. Bruce Dern is got a pretty big role in this, and he's 83 years old, which is kind of impressive.
I was really impressed with how spry he is in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him in other things, and he's like in a wheelchair or half dead, or, he's acting like an old man. This one here,
he was acting.
Yeah, he's doing good here.
Yeah.
Lexi Walker, as Chloe, is very young and does an outstanding job here as well. One of the best child actors we've seen in a long time, probably.
Yeah, I agree.
She sells it.
She knocked it out of the ballpark, yeah.
Emil Hirsch, he's fine, but for some reason he looks just like a young Jack Black.
And that's what I kept
very distracting.
I kept having to fight my instinct at the beginning. Like,
he's not so funny after all.
It's not Jack Black. It's not Jack Black. Yeah.
It's a little bit minimal on the horror elements, but it's got some gore. It's got some scary bits. It's got some... we're talking about it, so it's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
We thought it was really entertaining.
Yeah, really well done. The special effects are excellent. Everything gets explained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything is explained.
Yeah, I liked it.
One where not everything is explained is 1997's Cube, directed by Vincenzo Natali. Written by Andrei Bajelic, Vincenzo Natali, and Graham Manson. Stars Nicole DeBoer, Maurice Dean Wint, and David Hewlett. Our 37 minutes trailer in the show notes.
And a few other people. It's got a really small cast.
It gets smaller as the movie progresses.
And, yeah, they get narrowed down, yeah.
Well, what happened? Spoiler free.
Well, this is another one that's heavy on science fiction, but it really has the horror elements in this one. There's trapped people and deadly traps and gruesome deaths.
You make it sound like a Saw movie.
A little bit.
Oh, it's
got hints of the traps there, yeah. We travel through the Cube trap with the cast trying to figure out what's going on as they do.
I've seen this movie probably 6 times, and I still don't understand all the math stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, basically they wake up in a cube. It's a room that's a perfect cube that has some strange lighting, and, well, it starts right out that way. Yeah. And, they don't know why they're there, what's going on, and there's deadly traps in some of the rooms, as we immediately find out at the beginning.
A bald man wakes up on the floor inside an industrial-looking room that's cube-shaped.
And I thought this was kind of funny, too, because Julian Richings is the guy at the beginning, and he's on the poster. And so you think, this is going to be about him. No.
He's on the poster. He's in the pre-credit sequence. If you watch the trailer, he's the main guy in the trailer.
Yeah.
He dies in like 2 minutes.
Yep. He strings a trap.
Each of the 6 sides of the room, 4 walls, floor, and ceiling, has a door in the center. He opens one and goes into the next room, which is identical to the first.
The colors.
I have now described the entire movie.
The colors are different in the rooms.
Yeah.
Is the only difference.
And he goes through several of these rooms, lit in different colors. Suddenly, something happens.
Zoop.
And the man falls to pieces, literally. We see a razor-sharp grid. These rooms are trapped. Credits roll. He's like in a man-sized cheese grater.
Chunks.
One of those egg slicers.
Yep.
Well, a man whose shirt says Quentin wakes up another man named Worth. Fortunately, they all have their name tags on.
Yeah, and it's printed on their shirts.
They're joined by two women, Levin and Holloway.
And they're identically dressed, too. So whoever put them in here took their clothes and belongings and everything, and I dressed them identically with shirts that have their names printed on them. So how weird is this?
Quentin has blood on his hands, and he tells the others about the traps. An older man, Renz, comes in, and he's found a way to get past the traps by throwing his shoes in first.
And Quentin has blood on his hand because he hit his head.
None of them remembers how they got there. Who built this place? The government? Aliens? Holloway is a doctor. Quentin is a cop. Renz is a career criminal who is known for escaping prisons.
Oh, it's not Quentin that hit his head. Well, whatever.
Levin is a student, and Worth is just an office guy.
Worth is the one that hit his head.
Okay. The group uses the boot trick to move through several more rooms as they start looking for a way out. Levin notices that each room has a serial number by the door. Ren gives them all a speech about being careful, seconds before being sprayed with acid in the face and melting.
Yeah, that didn't go so well.
Quentin and Levin look at the serial numbers on the doors and notice that the trapped rooms all have a prime number. The pattern seems to work, and they go through a bunch of rooms all alike. Once in a while, they hear machinery in the walls doing something. They open a door and find a mentally challenged man inside. He's Kazan. They all start getting tired and hungry. Quentin falls into a trap and gets cut, but the room isn't prime, so the pattern doesn't work out. That shouldn't have been prime. Shouldn't have been trapped.
Yeah, it's more complicated.
Quentin and Levin start to get really annoyed with Kazan, who's loud and smells bad. They all argue with Worth, who has had a bad attitude and doesn't believe that there is a way out. He eventually admits he had worked in the office who drew plans for the shell of the cube. The group all argues about conspiracy theories and ideas about how this place got made. It all starts to sound pretty hopeless, so Quentin beats up Worth. Well, with Worth's information, Levin figures out that the cube has 17,000 plus rooms. They've probably been in a couple dozen at most.
Mm-hmm.
She also figures out that the serial numbers are three-dimensional coordinates. Can they figure out how to get out of the cube?
It was 17.
Before they beat themselves to death.
It was 17,000? I didn't remember it being that many. Yeah.
Yeah,
a lot.
Got that number from somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of cubes.
27 times 27 times 27.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you said earlier, Julian Richings was first on the poster, the trailer, and all the advertising, but he's only in it for 30 seconds and never says a word. Now that's iconic.
Mm-hmm.
7 actors in one set. This would have a hard time being more low budget if it tried, but it's really good. And as we'll see in a minute, you can be lower budget.
And the different room numbers added to the illusion of, oh, this is a huge set they're on.
Thousands of these cubes.
No, it was like, 6 that they had, or however many.
I think they just had one that they shot
number.
from different. Well, they had one in partials because you could see in the other room sometimes.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
The rooms all made sense until they started talking about permutations, and that's where they lost me.
A prime of a prime.
Yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, the movie is essentially a big math puzzle.
And Kazan is a savant.
Yes.
They start reading numbers, and he comes up with 2. And they're like, what? You did that in your head? Yeah.
Yeah, it was very good when it came out, and it does still hold up today.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no special effects or anything that looks CGI or dated. The characters, they don't have any technology other than the cube itself. Yeah, it holds up just great.
Yeah, I really dig that one.
So what it really did not need was a remake.
A remake.
But he got one anyway in 2021.
2021 Japanese
Now, there
remake.
was a Cube 2 and a Cube 3 that we will cover at another time. We're not talking about Cube 2 and Cube 3.
Cube 2 is a sequel, and Cube 3 is Cube 0, sort of a prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to those another day.
Yep.
This is the remake of that first movie.
Uh-huh.
Directed by Yasuhiko Shimizu. Written by Vincenzo Natali and Koji Tokuo. Stars Tokio Emoto, Masaki Okada, and Takumi Saito. Guess what language this is in?
Japanese.
You got it.
With dubbing or subtitles. We watched a subtitled version.
Yeah. Hour and 48 minutes, so this is longer than the original.
Longer. Yeah, and it felt it.
Oh, it certainly did.
Yeah, it's a bit draggy. I thought they should have tightened it up a bit.
This was I don't want to say a total waste of time.
Not a total.
It's got a few interesting ideas in it.
It does, and there's a few interesting things, and the ending has an interesting ending factor that we're not going to spoil. So it's interesting, but it's a little long.
I'm guessing the low-budget and math-centered plot appealed to Japanese people, so they decided to make it in their own language.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend it.
And this throws in some biases about age and gender somewhat, too.
Yeah, we'll get to that, yeah.
Old people versus young people and so forth.
So spoiler-free.
Like we said, it's a remake of the 1997, and it does...
So it's actually 24 years later.
Yeah.
These people weren't born
really,
when the first movie came out.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It had a lower budget feel to it than the original, I thought.
It did.
Yeah, and like we said, a little on the dull side. But if you're a fan of the 1997 version and the two follow-up movies, you'll probably find this at least interesting. I mean, we don't highly recommend it, but you should check it out.
Well, I would go that far.
Okay, I would.
If you really want completionism and you're a big Major Cube fan, watch it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just watch the original again.
Okay.
Well, a man opens a door and climbs through this. I should have just cut and pasted. A man opens a door and climbs through the small hole. He enters a cubicle room from one of the sides. He opens the opposite door and goes inside there. It's a room exactly like it, only in a different color. As he walks across the floor to the next door, giant tubes shoot out of the wall to impale him, and a big cube of flesh falls out of his chest before he collapses.
This is the Julian Richings
Of Japan, yes.
equivalent. Yes.
It's not as cool as the cheese grater where he did the lines and the blood slowly appears and then he dissolves. Mm-hmm. But it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, it's the same thing, only different.
Uh-huh.
Another prisoner wakes up to find two other people in the room with him. None of them know how or why they're there. A door opens and someone throws in a shoe. This guy walks through to the next door, and one of the prisoners asks him what's going on. They open the ceiling door and find the first man and his chest chunk.
Ew.
Then a girl opens a door and comes in as well. Credits roll. Well, the guy with the shoes demonstrates to the others that some of the rooms are booby-trapped, not bobby-trapped.
No,
Typing.
booby.
Well, everyone introduces themselves. Kai, Goto, Uno, and Ida talk about what they do in the real world. Then they all freak out a bit until they calm down and Ida leads them to the next room. Goto notices that each room seems to have a serial number. They keep moving until they find an older man, Endo, in one of the rooms. Now there are 6 of them. Uno, the youngest, a boy, doesn't like to talk or be touched. Suddenly the lights go out, and giant spinning fans start to descend.
They've triggered another trap. Oh, no.
One of the slowest, easy-to-escape traps in the cube, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the room there is rigged. They barely manage to open the floor and escape. Not long after, Uno figures out that the room numbers can predict whether or not there's a trap inside. He and Goto work on some math problems for about an hour, and then they find a pattern. Well, the group starts making rapid progress as the prime numbers seem to indicate the presence of a trap. They find one room that's got a sound-activated trap, and they have to be very, very quiet. Ando gets cut on his leg after Ochi accidentally makes a noise.
So you may be getting some impression that this has a lot of similarities to the first one.
You may be getting the impression there's a lot of similarities with the first one.
Yeah.
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 Oh, no.
But it's different enough to be interesting. I think.
Yeah, the further it goes, there are some more differences that pop up. It's exactly the same kind of story and same exact kind of plot,
but I think it does
different character drama.
Yeah, and it does diverge a little more the more it goes on.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a minute.
Yeah.
Kevin said, "This is for people who like the first cube, but wished it was more slow and dull."
Yeah, there are some stretches.
There's no argument from me. There are long stretches with no dialogue, and the math problems are cranked way up as well. I imagine there are Japanese schools out there that use this for like a final exam.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Explain this movie to me.
Yeah.
The original had some social commentary about the conflict between rich and poor people. The cop and the rich doctor argued back and forth about their lifestyles throughout the whole movie. This one seems to do the same thing with age differences and child abuse, how the old people all abuse the young people. Well, we see lots of pointless American remakes of foreign movies like Bunny Games, or Funny Games, not Bunny Games.
Funny Games.
Yeah, wrong movie.
I'll fix that.
Funny Games,
Okay.
Speak No Evil, or The Ring. This one spins that around and does a Japanese remake of an American movie. It's equally as pointless and diminished as the other remakes. Right off the bat, we notice that the cube's wall and floor are cheaper looking and smaller than the original. Yeah, it's like they couldn't reproduce them exactly, and they didn't try real hard.
Yeah.
The first ones
low
at least
budget.
looked industrial. These just sort of look decorative. It's not a shot-for-shot remake, but it's pretty close in a lot of ways. The characters are all different types, and some of the traps are different from the first film. There are some flashbacks and new things, but not enough to make this as good as the original. Picks up a little in the second half of the second half, but the first movie is still far superior.
Yep, I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not as good.
Well, 1952's The White Reindeer. I'd never seen this, and neither had you.
No?
It shows up on lots of people's lists of top horror movies of all time, so we figured, well, okay. Directed by Eric Blomberg, written by him and Mirjami Kuosmanen, stars Mirjami Kuosmanen, Kalervo Nisila, and Ake Lindman.
Easy for you to say.
Bursky.
Yeah.
1 hour, 14 minutes, trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, what happens?
Well, instead of the vampire turning into a bat, she turns into a white reindeer.
Well, if you live far enough north, that makes sense.
Yeah, but that was something we'd never seen before. Kind of interesting seeing what life was like in a small Finnish community in 1952. Definitely has a dark fairy tale vibe to it. And it literally starts out with a woman setting up the story. And it also has vibes like a documentary. Like it's about these people and the nature they live in. There's lots of nature shots.
Lots, yes.
Yeah. It wouldn't be for everyone, but we thought it was a decent watch.
It was interesting.
It was interesting, yeah.
It's old, and
It
I think the
is,
pacing is a
yeah.
little off for modern viewers, but it's all right.
Yeah.
Well, we watch people wandering around in a desolate snowscape as the singer tells us about a witch with evil in her belly. There's also a story about a girl who turned into a deer and died when the hunter killed her. And this is just voiceover stuff. It was a song, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. A subtitled song.
Yeah.
And we watch the woman make it to the witch's tent, give birth, and then die. Well, we later cut to Purita at the reindeer sled races. It's like the Iditarod meets Ben-Hur.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
It's like a snow dog race, only these are big old deers with antlers that gouge each other.
I was thinking that looks like a good way to get impaled by an antler. Yeah. Each sled has one rider and one deer.
Yeah.
But they're big and fast, and it's kind of brutal. Slimy and bangy, and looks dangerous.
Well, Purita is way ahead in the race when a man throws a lasso over her and pulls her off the sled. I think that's cheating. But they laugh and then kiss.
Yeah.
Okay, there's more going on.
She's fine with it.
Later, the man, Aslak, meets her parents and says he has good intentions and pays their dowry. There's a party and lots of drinking and toasts. It's a happy day for everyone.
Yay!
Some time passes, and although the two love each other, I guess that was their wedding.
Yeah, I think so.
They have a
yeah.
dead bedroom.
Uh-huh.
He leaves to go on a weeks-long reindeer cattle drive, which leaves her at home alone.
Yeah, the one scene, she's rolling over wanting to get romantic, and he rolls away from her. So
Whether he
there's some-
can't or doesn't want to, or we don't know what the story is. They don't go into that kind of detail, but
Yeah.
ain't nothing happening there.
Yeah.
Purita goes to visit an evil-looking man with no legs, and he is Taslku Nila. Out in a very remote cabin. She wants a love potion for him. He's like the town witch or something.
Yeah, the shaman. Yeah.
His magic drum gets out of control, and even he's afraid of it, calling her a witch. Remember, she was born from a witch.
Yeah, she's second generation.
He does tell her that she has to sacrifice the first living thing she sees when she leaves, which is her pet reindeer.
No.
A little tame white one.
Oh, and he's so cute.
I thought she saw her husband first, which kind of would have defeated the purpose, but guess that doesn't count.
Yeah.
She takes the little reindeer to the altar of the stone god and kills it with her knife. She then passes out in the snow and gets a vision. Well, Purita goes looking for Aslak, but he's not in the camp when she gets there. He's out hunting. She goes to sleep in a tent with all the other men, which I assumed was going to be a problem, but it wasn't.
No, I think they're just communal. Yeah.
But she wakes up in the middle of the night. She leaves the tent and becomes a big white reindeer.
Ah, so it's a love potion with a catch.
Some hunters see the white reindeer and start tracking it. One of the hunters ropes the animal and wrestles it to the ground, just as we saw Parita do it earlier. I guess reindeer wrestling's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, the deer is Parita, laughing at the shocked hunter. As he leans in for a kiss, she gets a surprised look and bites him on the neck, killing him.
Whoops.
Whoa.
Yeah, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, it did. Let's stop at that point.
Okay.
So you got a vampire reindeer.
Yeah.
And I had no idea people used reindeer as sled dogs or could just catch a wild one to tow your sled. At one point, they do that.
Very
they just
cool. Yeah.
reach out and grab a ran, and they go.
Yeah.
Very cool. There's lots of shots of reindeers and people herding, hunting, and wrestling them, almost, as you said, almost like a nature documentary.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little dialogue, so even if you don't like subtitles, there's not that much going on here with the words. Visually, it's excellent, especially if you're curious about Finland in the old days. It's kind of vague about when this takes place, but it could have been as recent as 1952 when the film was made. There's no technology, they all live in tents and huts. But, if you're out in a hunting group out in the Finnish wilderness...
They have what they need.
Yeah, I don't know that would have changed much by that point.
Well, you could tell by the tools and, various
They have guns.
dishes and glasses and guns. And, yeah, it was not ancient times.
Yeah.
It was the modern times of 1952, whatever.
It's interesting due to the location and the time period, but there's not really that much of a story or drama here. Like you said, it seems like very fairy tale-ish.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a lot like a nature documentary crossed with a fairy tale rather than horror. I suspect many modern audiences would find it a little boring.
We thought it was interesting, and it's short.
Considering the age and where it came from, it's kind of a one-of-a-kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, almost, except for The Seventh Seal from 1957.
Which is kind of also one of a kind.
Yeah. Written and directed by Ingmar Bergman, stars Max von Sydow, Gunnar Bjornstrand, and Bengt Eckeros. So, an hour and 36 minutes, trailer in the show notes. And this is on a lot of people's best movies of all time, not even just horror movie.
Okay,
And the horror is even a little bit sketchy on this one.
I liked it, and I'm glad I saw it. I wouldn't call it one of my best of all time.
I think it was iconic and influential.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you've seen death in a movie, a lot of times he's wearing a big long cloak with no face. He looks like the ghost of Christmas Future with a scythe.
Like Bill and Ted.
That's one. No, that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is like this.
Oh, that's
one.
what I meant. Yeah.
The bald man in a cloak who's white, very pale white and mysterious. And also the idea that death is a game player, I think, came from this one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the Bill and Ted connection.
They play chess in this.
Spoiler free.
Oh, well, it's very visually interesting, and it explores religion, philosophy, human relationships, the meaning of life, and death. And like we said, death is not is personified, and it's not the first time that death appeared like that, but it's an iconic version that has influenced other later works and media and movies. It's pretty grim through most of it, and on the talky side, but it's one worth checking out for sure if you haven't seen it. You should. You should drop everything you're doing and watch it right now.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if they ever did a remake of this.
I don't think they did.
There's something here about a 2017... I don't know. Why don't you look while I read this for you?
Okay.
Yeah, we open on a deserted-looking beach, and we hear about the Lamb opening the seventh seal and the signs of the apocalypse. And that's the entire connection to the seventh seal right there. We cut to shots of dead men on the beach from a shipwreck, including Antonius Block, Max von Sydow.
Okay,
who's very young with a... What?
There is a 2022 30-minute remake.
Remake?
Well, yeah. It's
Okay.
A disillusioned knight returns home from the Crusades to find his country in the grips of the Black Death. He challenges death to a chess match for his life. Tormented by the belief that God does not exist, Antonius sets out on a journey, meeting up with yada yada. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a half-hour version of...
Probably the same movie without all the philosophy thrown in.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, we cut to shots of... Oh, yeah, we've been through that. He gets up and prays. He's not as dead as the others. Maybe not so good, since Death himself shows up. Are you ready? Antonius challenges Death to a very high-stakes game of chess.
And Death is in a gaming mood, so he says, sure.
Yeah, as long as the game continues, Antonius can live. If he wins, he can go free, and if he dies, or if he loses, he dies.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a no-lose thing for Antonius, so he goes for it.
He would have died in the shipwreck anyway. Yeah.
Antonius rides his horse away, with Squire Johns tagging along, talking about all kinds of ominous things. They try to ask a man for directions, but he's obviously already dead. He died from the plague.
He's very dead. Yeah.
Well, we cut to somebody else, Joff, who wakes up, gets out of his wagon, and talks to his horse until he has visions of a mother and child walking through the grass, and he assumes it's the Virgin Mary.
Why would you assume that?
Why was this scene in there even?
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, he goes inside and tells Mia about what he saw. She doesn't believe him since he's played pranks on her before. They're part of an acting troupe, and they've been hired to entertain the priests, who are all worried about the plague. Something to take their mind off it. Squire Johns talks to a man painting a mural about the value of scary paintings. It's a painting of the plague dead, meant to remind the living that they're all going to die. Well,
Cheerful.
fun.
Yeah, there's all kinds of cheerful topics in this.
Johns talks that they've just come home from the Crusades and something about what went on there.
I mean, there are some nice moments where they have some good times and they have a picnic at one point and, they're, some happy things, but it's a lot of grimness in
It's
this.
a very grim movie, yes.
Yeah.
Antonius arrives at the church and does a confession to Death. Death's in the other confessional booth like a priest. He's not a priest, he's Death.
Mm-hmm.
He laments that he doesn't care that much about his fellow man, and he has major doubts about his faith. He wants knowledge, not faith. Why won't God show his face? Antonius wants to use his reprieve from death to do one worthwhile act.
Just got to find what that is.
Antonius and Johns go outside and find a woman being flogged for having carnal intercourse with the devil. They think she's the cause of the plague. Antonius and Johns ride out of town. Well, the two come upon a mostly abandoned town. Johns talks to Ravel, who brags about robbing the many dead in town. And he's the same man who talked Antonius into going on the crusade 10 years ago. That was some kind of scam, and Johns threatened to kill Ravel if they see him again. Ravel's woman then becomes Johns' housekeeper.
Okay.
Well, the acting troupe and /circus has come to town. One of the actors follows a local woman into the bushes for a good time. The act is interrupted when a bunch of creepy monks and sick people march into town in a macabre parade.
Yeah, that's just something.
We get this big silly carnival with the jugglers and the dancers and the singers, and then suddenly, the Black Death arrives.
Yeah, this parade, the Black Parade.
Everyone stops, prays, and cries, and that's probably where that song came from.
Yeah, well.
You shall all die from the Black Death, says the leader of the parade, and he's not a fun man. After his morbid speech ends, the whole group moves on.
Yeah, I mean, they come into town and give the speech, and okay, see ya. Next town. Yep, bye.
Gotta go cheer up the neighbors.
Spreading the word.
Well, everyone knows the plague is coming, and there's a lot of angst as they all wait in dread. The people are talking about Judgment Day and what that entails. And basically we get 2 hours of that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of talking in this one.
There is, yeah.
You know the movie's old when Max von Sydow gets fourth billing under people you've never heard of. And I don't think any of these people were big stars at the time either.
No, I don't think so. But,
well, this wasn't the first portrayal as Death as an actual character, but it's a very influential depiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically...
And he's very hands-on.
He is, yeah. At one point, one of the guys climbs up a tree, and you expect Death to wave his hand, and he falls out. No, he cuts down the tree with a saw.
Yeah, Death has a saw. Yeah, it's your time. Okay.
It's basically all the characters talking about how people deal with death, loss, and faith. Yes.
Yes.
Death, loss, and faith. It's all very philosophical, and all the characters have their own differing opinions. It's an exceptionally bleak film, and they don't get much more morbid and death-obsessed than this one. Visually, it's excellent. That's why I looked for a remake to see if they did it in color. Probably wouldn't be the same, though.
Probably not, no.
The characters are all unique and good, and there's a lot of talking about religion and philosophy here. So yeah, it's probably one of the most philosophical movies I've seen.
I found it way more interesting than I expected to. Yeah.
If you're looking for action, go somewhere else.
Right.
This is a bunch of people talking.
But visuals and the cast doing a good job, and yeah.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Ingmar Bergman knew what he was doing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
All right. Hey, that's it for this week. Stop in next week when we will have 5 more movies.
All right.
We're going to have some new ones. I think Jenny Penn is going to meet the monkey.
Ooh.
That's a battle we didn't know we were going to get.
Yeah.
And we'll have some other stuff for you, too. Okay, until then, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.